We're wrapping things up here on Big Ten today. Rutgers football coming off a nice year, first winning record since 2014, capped off by the bowl win over Miami. Offense got better last year in Kirk Ciarrocca's return as OC. Now they bring in Minnesota transfer Ethan Kaliakmanis at QB to see if they can generate a bit more of a pass game. No power conference team ran it more frequently than the Scarlet Knights did a year ago. Brian Fonseca covers Rutgers for NJ Advanced Media. He joins us now. And Brian, I want to talk about Rutgers football in a minute, but let's go big picture first with the entire athletic department. Last week marked a decade since Rutgers joined the Big Ten back in 2014. How would you gauge where this athletic department is now compared with where it was 10 years ago when Rutgers joined the league?
Sure. First, thank you guys for having me. Really appreciate it, Dave. We looked back and did a kind of an analysis on the numbers, crunched them for every Rutgers athletics team through the past 10 years. Some great seasons, some not so great seasons, some high moments, some lows. Ultimately, I think the biggest takeaway is that for a majority of teams, they're trending upwards. They're doing better than they did. They're doing better in the last 5 years than they did in the first 5 years in the league. I think that's the kind of the trajectory that Rutgers wants to sell, and I think that's ultimately why here entering the 24-25 academic year, Rutgers is about to enter one of the most anticipated years for its football program, for its men's basketball program, and for its athletic department.
I want to take a deep dive into those two programs that you mentioned specifically because there is a ton of excitement around both of them. Let's start with football, and I touched on it there. They're coming off a winning season. They beat Miami in a bowl game. You talk about the schedule. For the first time, they don't have to play Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State, so that's good. They have a really good recruiting class that's kind of building here. You've got the Big Ten's leading returning rusher coming back. You had a really good defense a year ago that returns a lot of the same faces. So give me a sense of that anticipation heading into the football season.
I think it's really high. I think people are hopeful that if everything goes right, this can be, another 2006. That was really the breakout year for Greg Schiano 1.0. And right now, it feels like everything is coming together. You mentioned the schedule. According to ESPN's FPI, Rutgers has the third easiest schedule, easy in quotation marks, in the country. They don't play any of the big boys that were essentially guaranteed losses every year for the past 10 years. They bring back their best offensive weapon in Kyle Manungai. They are hoping for an upgrade at the quarterback position with Ethan Kaliakmanis.
You mentioned they brought in Kaliakmanis. He did not put up tremendous passing numbers at Minnesota, frankly, but his numbers were a little bit, just marginally better, I'd say, than Gavin Wimsatt's were last year at Rutgers. What are you hearing about him and that reuniting with Kirk Ciarrocca?
Yeah, I think that's the big key here, the relationship he has with Kirk Ciarrocca, who recruited him to Minnesota when he was the offensive coordinator there. When Kaliakmanis made his debut as a redshirt freshman, Kirk Ciarrocca was the OC, and Kaliakmanis had a pretty good showing that season, helped lead them to the Pinstripe Bowl, helped them win the Pinstripe Bowl until he got injured in the first half of that game there at Yankee Stadium. But they're hopeful that he is an upgrade in the passing game over Gavin Wimsatt, who struggled mightily in the passing game, was the least accurate quarterback in FBS football 2 years in a row. So you kind of really can't go anywhere but up from there. But they're hoping that between having a strong running game led by Kyle Manungai and an improved offensive line, an improved wide receiving core, Rutgers really revamped that by getting a strong transfer in Dymere Miller, the FCS leading receiver last year, bringing back a lot of guys, adding some talented freshmen. They're hoping that the combination of all those things provide an upgrade on the offensive side of the ball.
Before I let you go, Brian, I do want to talk about basketball. We heard from Steve Pikiell earlier in the show. There is massive anticipation. I mean, you're talking about the #2 recruiting class in the country. It was interesting in hearing him talk to Rick Pizzo earlier in our show. There is this concern, right, which is that you're counting on really young players. They only brought back a few guys from last year. They did go into the transfer portal and get a few prolific scorers from elsewhere. The question seems to be, how does it all fit together? What are you hearing from the summer in terms of how that process has gone?
That's the biggest challenge on Steve Pikiell's plate, right, is getting all these pieces and making them mesh and work together. You have two of the most talented players maybe in program history in Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey, guys who are going to be lottery picks in the NBA, assuming everything goes right next year. So you have a really strong base there. I'm hearing the summer workouts, which started about 4 weeks ago, are going really well. They've been without Dylan Harper, who underwent a procedure on his knee, and they've been missing Tyson Acuff, Eastern Michigan transfer they got, who broke his foot last week. But otherwise, the guys that are on the court are meshing well together. They're learning to play with each other. That's kind of really what the summer is for. And things are going well. I would say that most programs feel that their summers are going well at this point. On paper, though, it feels like the season has a lot of potential. People feel, and rightfully so, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for this program to put together all this talent and go far, make the NCAA tournament. Final Four aspirations. That word is buzzing around Piscataway, and I guess we won't really know how realistic that is until, again, October comes around, November comes around, and the season starts. But expectations have never been this high in Piscataway for basketball, not since 1976, coming off that Final Four year.
Cannot wait to see it. The rack is absolutely going to be hopping, or Jersey Mike's Arena, I suppose, is going to be hopping come this late fall and winter. Brian Fonseca, great stuff. Really appreciate it, and look forward to reading your coverage of Rutgers all year.
Thanks so much for having me on, Dave.